Hey everybody, this is Anne. Now online, I saw these paper snowflakes. They were so cute. I wanted to know if I could make one out of clay. So I figured out how to do it with paper first, and then I experimented in the studio to see if I could make it work using thin slabs of clay. So the first thing we need to do is make a template. So out of this little sheet of paper, I just need to make a tiny square. So I'm going to use my quilter's square, and I lined up the edge of the paper right here along the 5 line. So that should give me a nice square. So I'm going to cut it out. Now that I have the square, I'm going to fold it in half like this. And I'm going to fold it again like that. Okay. So when I'm cutting, I want to make sure that I cut parallel to this long edge and cut from here up, but not all the way through. And when you open it up, it should look like that. Now I'm going to roll out 1/8 inch slabs, enough so that I can cut 6 of these squares out of. Now I've taken the slab off so that I can put a little bit of cornstarch down. So hopefully when I make the cuts, the slab won't stick. I'm going to take the template, put it down on the slab, like that. And then I'm going to take this plastic wrap and put it over top of that. So what that'll do, when I make the cuts, that will round off the edges of the square, and I won't have to worry about cleaning those up later. So I take my ruler, line it up with the edge of the template, and cut. I'm going to do the same thing over here. So now I peel the plastic wrap off. There we go. I'm going to trace around these edges. I'm just going to score. I'm not going to cut all the way through. Now I'm going to peel the template off. And I have that. So now I'm going to take my needle tool and cut all the way down through the clay. I'm going to lift it up, make sure none of the edges are stuck down to the mat. I'm trying to lift it without stretching it. Okay, so now we have that. Okay, so I'm going to take these first 2 edges and pull them over each other until they are together like that. Okay, now I'm going to take my needle tool, kind of score the edge just a little bit. Score, score, score. And then I'm going to take a little bit of the slip that together. so that that stays. I'm going to even use the end of my brush back here just to make sure this edge is nice and tight together on around the back. If it doesn't look like it's sticking, you can always take another little piece of clay and push that behind and into that little groove there. Now I'm going to skip one and pull up the third edge to the center. And the same thing over here. Just very gently, make sure you don't tear anything. And now they touch on the inside. So now I'm going to take my needle tool and do the same thing. Score. I've slipped it, and I'm going to pull these edges together. Again, I can put my brush behind it and kind of squish the edges together a little bit, like that. Okay. So now, I don't know if you can see the inside, but you've got that edge there and this edge here. Now I'm going to flip it over to the other side. Okay. Again, we're going to take these two edges and pull these up so that they meet in the center. Again, so that I make sure I get the back. Put my brush there and really make sure you get a good attachment. So this edge I'm having a little more trouble getting to stick. So I take a little bit of clay, roll it out into a coil, push that, just kind of stick it onto the back there, and then I can take my brush and work that into the center. Push the edges up around it. And on this side too. Yep, now that should stick. Notice I'm really trying not to minimize the amount of handling I'm doing on the clay. Now finally, I'm going to fold these big edges in. There they go. And again, we're going to score. Make sure I got those together. I'm going to put my brush in the back, kind of push the clay over itself. Okay, so let me turn this sideways and I'll show you what we got. Now you'll still want to clean up the edges once it gets leather hard, but you should end up with something like this. This will be one of the points of the snowflakes. Now all I need to do is repeat this process 5 more times because there's going to be 6 edges around the snowflake. Now that we have all 6 pieces made, we want to make sure to arrange them so that they're all facing in the same direction. In other words, I have the big side over here, the little side is on this side. So big side over here, little side on that side. Big side over here, little side on that side. First I'm going to go ahead and assemble the centers. So I'm going to go ahead and score. And do a little slip. So I'm pushing those together. Now I'm going to attach these 2 edges together, this one to that one. So again, I'm just going to score both edges and attach. Just to make sure that I get a good attachment here, I got a little bit of clay, I just coiled it a little, and I'm going to stick it right in there. So next I'm going to pull this one in and attach it in the same way. Down here and then up here. Now that I've scored and slipped, I push them together and then I attach just a little bit of a coil down here in the crevice. The last thing I need to do is attach from here to here, and as you can see, there's quite a bit of gap there. All we need to do is just arrange. Just pull these around just a little bit until they meet. Okay. Now I need to put coils in between each one of these connections just to make sure that we get a good connection in the center. And work it in. And let's put one down here. Now to cover up this mess right here in the center, I scored it and then I just created a little button. And I'm going to cap it with the button so that that just kind of covers up some of that, those coils and the ends that are tucked underneath. Now all you have to do is wait until it gets leather hard, and then you can go back in and really clean up some of these edges. When this is leather hard, then I take a brush and a needle tool and just clean up the edges a little bit. And then, of course, when it's bone dry, then I'll bisque fire it.
I was very relieved to see that everything stayed together, there was no cracking, and it didn't collapse. After a lot of discussion, this is what Jim and I came up with. We found a cake pan to do dipping, and then we rigged the snowflake with wires for hanging. I lowered the snowflake face first into the pan, then tilted the pan to get adequate coverage, at the same time trying to avoid glazing the snowflake's underbelly. I fed a yardstick through the wires and hung it over a bucket for the excess glaze to drip. I then used a turkey baster to strategically pour glaze over the inner elements of the snowflake. I was happy with how the glazing came out. There was no cracking, and the glaze was opaque enough to cover some of the rough edges. Now, there are things I might do differently for the next time, but for this first try, I'm pretty happy. I'd love to hear feedback on how you'd approach this challenge. If you liked our videos, please like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you next time in the studio.